Hey y'all, welcome back to Papa Creek Farm. So today I wanted to do a little video because I'm feeling a bit discouraged when it comes to my garden. I'm sitting out here in front of my garden, which I do thoroughly enjoy being out in my garden. I love my garden. I love processing food from my garden. It just kind of makes me happy, but I have struggled a bit this year with my garden. So if you guys are newer to the channel or haven't watched all the earliest videos, this property we bought, we actually bought it about 2 years ago. Started building this last summer and we moved in our house in January. Obviously we couldn't do a whole lot before this growing season for the soil, to amend the soil. We did in the fall till an area where we thought my garden was going to be, and planted clover to help amend the soil because we knew we had clay soil. Unfortunately, the well driller drilled right into where I had planted the clover, so I had to move my garden like a good probably 10 feet over from where I had planned it originally, just to make sure that we don't hit piping or anything. And so I didn't really get to amend it in the fall. I amended it some in the spring. We tilled it. We added compost and we tilled it in, and it helped a lot. In comparison, if you compared our soil right outside the garden to our soil in the garden, it was night and day. I mean, in the garden it was so much softer, but it still wasn't, it's still not nice soil. It's not 100% perfect. Not that any soil is going to be 100% perfect, but it still has a long way to go. My root vegetables have struggled. I've noticed that a lot. A lot of my vegetables are just struggling. So people around me who have actually started plants from me, so same plants that I planted in my garden, same varieties, obviously same start dates, same conditions, inside to start, their plants, once they transplanted them out, are doing really well. They've had a lot of tomatoes off of their plants already, a lot of peppers. My mom has harvested a decent amount, maybe not quite as many as me, but more quantity per plant, because I have double the plants that she does. So my plants are just not thriving. Weeds are thriving, for sure, which is not surprising. So our property was fully vacant land, didn't have a house on it, nothing. It used to be, the backfield used to be a cornfield. The front, I don't know if they ever actually used it for a cornfield or not. It was very hilly. And it was just weeds. I mean, it really was. When the first time we came and looked at this property, the weeds were up to my knee. And then when I came back a few months later, maybe a month and a half later, the weeds were up to my shoulder. So they're huge, lots and lots of weeds. And so we planted in soil that had, I mean, it's going to have seeds of weeds. That's just the reality of it. And I've struggled really badly this year to keep up with the weeds. I am not one of the, I guess, unfortunate and in some ways fortunate ones that were laid off during COVID. I am a registered nurse, so I was not laid off. I was working the whole time, and so I have not had excess time to go and weed my garden. So we've just struggled. My plants aren't doing well. My soil needs help. So I had all these grand plans, ordered a bunch of seeds for a fall garden. I had plants that I really wanted to try and I was so excited about. New varieties. I wanted to try kohlrabi, I wanted to try rutabaga, turnips. I wanted to do a lot more carrots. And the whole idea is to put up food for the winter. But if I don't step back, as much as I am a very impatient person, extremely impatient, if I don't step back and not plant a fall garden and amend my soil, my spring gardens and my summer gardens are not going to do good for many years. So if I don't do a fall garden and I instead pull everything up when it comes time, till my soil, add compost, plant clover, and then just let it rest, I hope in the spring, if I do that, that my soil will thank me and my garden will be able to give me much more fruit, much more harvest than I'm able to get this year. I really think that if it weren't for my soil struggling so much, my soil being so terrible, I would have a good garden. I mean, I did everything right otherwise. my peppers have just continuously had blossom and rot. Now we've also had a hard year because it's been very dry for us here. We have had very little rain. When we do get rain, it does pour, and then that's about it. It pours for a bit, sometimes for a day, but we have clay soil, so it just runs off. It doesn't actually stay on our property very well because we still don't have grass everywhere, and so it's been a rough gardening year thus far. So as much as it pains me to step back and to not do a fall garden, I don't think it's best to do one this year. I think it is absolutely best to replenish my soil before I ask it to give me more. You know, soil has a certain amount of nutrients in it. As you plant certain things, certain plants put in nutrients to the soil. Beans are a really good nitrogen fixer. You know, so there are things that help the soil, but for the most part, your plants are taking from the soil. There is some give back, but it's overall take. To create the fruits that we eat, or to create the vegetables that we eat, we have to have nutrient-rich soil to be able to harvest these things. And I didn't give my soil enough this year, I don't think. I think I did probably the best I could do in the situation. We were trying to kind of do it quickly because we had just gotten into our house and we were still settling in and getting some big projects done. But I think if we had done just a little bit more, we could have had a much better year. So that's my plan for now for fall, is to do, like I said, once everything's done, we'll pull it out, we will till up the soil, which I'm not a huge fan of tilling, but when you have clay soil, if you don't break it up in some way, there's no way you're ever gonna get anything to grow unless you build completely on top of it. And I don't have money to have enough soil to cover, you would need like a foot depth, or at the very least maybe 6 inches you could get away with, of good compost completely covering. And we can't afford that for as big of a garden as we have. So those seeds are not going to go to waste. I will store them properly and I will plant them in spring. So most of those things are cool weather, so they do better in spring. I'd definitely start them then and hopefully have a better spring for the crops next year. And then being able to amend my soil kind of between seasons, I think will help for my gardening continuously. I can't not give back to my soil and expect it to continue to give to me. So I have to take the time, as much as, again, it pains me to do so. I need to do it. So as much as I'm feeling really discouraged, at the same time, I'm hopeful for next year. And that's the amazing thing about gardening, is we always have next year. So maybe I won't get as much of a harvest this year as I was hoping for, and I won't be as successful as I was hoping for this year. But there's always next year. And if I do what I need to do now, next year should be even better. So I needed to kind of explain why we were doing the things we were doing, because I'd put out videos about my fall garden and I had plans for it, but I've realized that I really need to get back to my soil first. So thank y'all for joining me. Please like and subscribe and join me on the next one.